Hello, everyone. My name is Nate. I will be your guide for this crazy adventure here. Um, so a little bit about this channel. This is my first video, so pardon the introduction. Uh, but let's see. I have been out of the church for about almost 5 years now. Uh, about almost 2.5, 3 years ago, uh, actually a little over 3 years ago, I met the person that would later become my wife. And she is a progressive Mormon woman, but active in the church. And we started dating, and I decided to try going back to church with her to see what would happen. Because she talked about all these, spiritual experiences she would have. And I thought, this would be a great way for me to know my wife better and to experience this kind of thing with her and see how I felt. When I first came back to church, I was emotionally triggered for quite a bit of it. Definitely my critical brain started kicking in, saying like, "What about this? What about that?" All my thoughts of criticism, and it wasn't easy. It was very difficult, but I managed to get in a good space. Now I am going to church with her, not every Sunday, but many Sundays, most Sundays. Uh, she is actually originally from Latin America, and we go to a Spanish ward. So I did my mission in Argentina. So my Spanish is coming back very well, having met her and now, married to her. Uh, and the Latin culture is a little different. And I like bettering my Spanish by going to church too. So it's good. So when we first got to this ward, I sat down. Well, I grabbed a bishop and I said, "Hey, here's my situation. I'm a former member of the church, but I'm here to support my wife, and I want you to know I'm not a danger for anyone's testimony, and I'm just going to be attending if that's okay with you. And if it is okay with you, I'd like to be able to participate occasionally, make comments that are constructive and good." And he said, "Absolutely, no problem." And has been very supportive, actually, really good. So this is my attempt to go to church and to be a part of the word and be true to myself and what I'm thinking and feeling, and also be positive and supportive of goodness in these classes, which sometimes is a big challenge for me. Let's be honest, it can be really hard. So I'm just going to give an example here. I'm going to try and do one, a video like this every um, 2 weeks or so, maybe more frequently, maybe less, but that's going to be my average goal. So this one was the celestial dream, I'm going to call it. This was an experience I had sitting in elders quorum, and the theme of the class was about the 3 degrees of glory. Um, so many of you have probably seen this before, where after you die, you can go to the celestial kingdom, and there's 3 degrees within the celestial kingdom, and the highest, the number one, is the one where God lives. And as a believing member of the church, that's where you want to go with your family. There is the terrestrial, telestial, and then there's outer darkness too. No one wants to go to those. So I so anyways, they started talking about the celestial kingdom in the highest degree. And of course, something that always comes up in that is the eternal family idea. This is something that, as a kid growing up, my mom and dad were very big on this. Quick story, my mom made us, she actually sewed t-shirts. There's 7 kids in the family, counting me. She sewed t-shirts and stenciled on it, "Families can be together forever," and had like a little thing of our family on there. And when we went on vacation to Disney World, we all had to wear matching shirts, and those were the shirts we had to wear. And they were yellow. So somewhere I have a video or a picture of that. And we bought a 15-passenger van. when I was a kid, and it was actually we bought it when I lived in Arizona, when we lived in Arizona, and it was a Baptist church's bus that they used for Sunday school to go pick people up and bring them to church. And we got it used for cheap. And I remember family home evening activity. We all rubbed off the thing that says the Baptist Church bus, and then she stenciled over it, families can be together forever. On our garage, she painted it the same color yellow as our shirts, and then said families can be together forever on it. And we lived like 2 blocks from the high school. And so everyone walking to school or coming back, they got to see that. And occasionally I got recognized for that, and they'd be like, "Oh, yours is the house with that garage with the families forever thing." I'm like, "Yep, I'm doing my missionary purpose, I guess," and being embarrassed about it. So, it was a very big deal to my family growing up that our big, huge family was going to be together forever. And I'm like, okay, great, rah, rah, rah. So they started talking about that. And of course, talking about getting to that highest level of celestial kingdom, they start talking about a checklist, what do you need to do to get there? And one of the first things that came up was marriage between one man and one woman. Of course, my ExMo mind immediately thought, it didn't always used to be that. It used to be one man and many women. And today it can be one man and many women still after death, So, but obviously, if you read the proclamation to the family, that's what everyone thinks about: a man and a woman and a traditional family. So they said, not only do you have to be married, man and woman, but by the proper authority, otherwise till death do us part, right? They also said, think celestial, because we just finished that talk in the past general conference. They said, we got to think celestial. If we're not thinking celestial, how can we enjoy the celestial kingdom unless we think celestial, etc. So it's like, okay, that's fine. Uh, and they said, we got to go to the temple. Here's a couple going to the temple there, uh, you need to go to the temple and enjoy your temple experience, and that's really important requirement for getting into the celestial kingdom. They also brought up things such as tithing, um, and word of wisdom, just basically all the things on the temple recommend interview. So they talked about, in general, keeping the commandments. There's like, you just got to keep the commandments if you want to make it there. And they said you got to do family history as well, so that we can get to the temple, so we can all be connected, excuse me. Uh, you want to connect yourself all the way back to Adam. That's the idea. Everyone's connected in this nice, neat chain. And we have this eternal family where we're all connected. Our neighbors in the ward will be there, and as our aunts and uncles and great grandparents, all the way back to Adam. So that's the idea. So that got me thinking, because uh, my youngest brother, just got married, and this year, and he sent a text to my mom saying, "Thanks for being my mom." My parents weren't able to travel there because of age and health things, but they watched remotely, and it's really beautiful marriage. But he texted my mom saying, "Thanks for being my mom, and thanks for supporting me," and those kind of things. And she replied back and said, "You know, I'm just really sad that 3 of my kids are out of the church." And I thought, wow, that's a really sad place to live your life. And I understand it, but at the same time, it's really sad. Uh, so I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, my mom, this is something that's really hard for her. Um, what was a source of great joy and comfort to her is now a source of great sorrow for her and regret. And she wonders if she did enough, if it was because of her imperfect parenting or imperfect example that maybe we left the church, and maybe if she'd done something different, or said something different, or presented a different example, uh, there'd be it- she wouldn't be in this sad situation. Uh, Another thing that came up in the lesson, coincidentally, I found this angel crying, um, and the it's interesting because if you read in Doctrine and Covenants, it says that if you're not married and you live all the rest of the laws perfectly, then the highest you can get is to be a servant angel, you know. So that's kind of sad, you know. Most people don't want to be a servant. And of course, there's this saying in the church you hear a lot, let there be no empty chairs in the celestial kingdom, you know. In my case, my mom's going to see at least three if what she believes to be true happens, um, you know, following what she believes. Um, and it comes to this old meme of well, old, I saw it a couple of years ago, but families can be together forever. It's interesting that can, right? It's not assured. Uh, Everyone except people who don't do those requirements, right? Um, and you know, they may leave the church or you know, whatever. They may not be sealed in the temple. Maybe they are in the church, but they never make it to they never get married. Maybe one's gay, you know, whatever it is. So that got me thinking, like there's a lot of people, and this was my chance as an ex-Mormon in here with a different perspective to bring up something a little different for the people in the class. So I thought, how could I be make this positive, you know, and not confrontational? And so what I thought about was like, you know, I could talk about this experience that I was thinking about with my mom, with my family, and maybe I could open up the discussion to a deeper, more real conversation. Um, because the how do you deal with the difference between or the space between the ideal and the reality, you know? There's plenty of divorces in our in Mormons and uh, the rest of the world. Um, Most families don't fit this perfect mold. Most families have uh, someone who leaves the church or who is LGBTQ, or maybe it's a second marriage, you know, combined families. You know, there's a lot of families that don't fit that traditional role from like the 50s. So, like, maybe we could deal in reality. So, I raised my hand and I said, hey, here's this experience my mom had. And I bet like probably at least 70% of you fit in this category of not having this perfect family that's going to have uh, that's that's going to have empty seats, you know, at the celestial kingdom. And so like that's really hard for my mom. Maybe that's something we could talk about. How do you guys process that? How do you feel okay with that? What do you think? What do you do? And so we started talking. I just kind of sat back and let them talk, honestly, from there on. But there's some interesting comments. So I wanted to share a few of those with you. Um, One of them was pray for your kids. You never know when they'll come back. You never know if they will change their minds. Miracles can happen, you know, et cetera. Keep praying for them. Um, Now, for me, as someone who's left the church, I understand that. I don't really want people to pray for me. I'd rather be accepted for who I am and not have someone hoping that I change and to be something that they want me to be. But I also understand the sentiment, and to them, that is useful, that is helpful. It helps them feel that, you know, there's hope. Um, so praying and never giving up on your kids. In my case, something that that shows up as is I will get messages from my parents or from other members of my family with like some spiritual thought or a link to a talk or some quote. And that's them trying to like catch me at a weak moment or whatever to join back in, you know, to be like, oh, you know what? I read this talk and you're right. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm coming back. You did it. You changed me, you know? My mom particularly kept doing that so much. I said, Mom, you can even send these to me, but why don't we discuss them? Why don't you tell me why this message is important to you? What do you like about what you're seeing in this talk or hearing? And 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 that way I'll get to know you better at least, you know, like, but don't just drop this like bomb on me and then hide, you know, like I would rather you tell me why. And she wouldn't do it. So it's really hard. I have to put some boundaries in there. Um, so anyway, uh, that's how it can sometimes feel to us people who are out of the church, you know. Another thing that was talked about is how the atonement can heal families in ways that we don't understand or don't know. And who knows what will happen after this life? Who knows what will, like Jesus is great. He can heal those things, and don't limit him. So we can put our broken hearts back together, through the gospel. Another thing that came up was interesting is they said, hey, the millennium, there's going to be temple work done for everyone. So um, just just wait, just sit back and watch, because during the millennium, a lot of amazing things will happen. I imagine in their mind, they're thinking, who is going to uh, not join the church when they see Jesus coming down from the clouds and meeting with the leaders of the church, like the prophets there, like the first person he goes to, shake his hand, I imagine that's how I imagined it when I was a member, a faithful member. So I imagine that's what they're thinking. Like, I mean, who's gonna not join the church? That's when everyone's gonna be like, oh, line me up. So they said during the millennium, a lot of things will happen. So just don't worry about it too much. That's a problem for them. And basically, it kind of all these things are summed up with don't lose faith, don't lose hope. Um, so I thought it was a good, positive, more vulnerable conversation that they had. I don't necessarily agree with all those things, of course, as you would expect, but I thought it was a really positive place to take the conversation and more real than just talking about this ideal family that doesn't exist for like most of the people in the room. Most of the people, it's the alternative. So let's talk about the real things. Um, and, I would just say to members of the church, these kind of discussions are really good. And it's a chance for you to comfort those that stand in need of comfort, to mourn with those who are mourning the loss of their family members, like be there for each other, support each other, help each other. And that could be really good. And also support and love those who are out of the church, whether they're going to come back to the church or not, whether you have that expectation or you just accept them for who they are. That's kind of what Jesus said to do, right? Just love everyone and let them live their lives. That agency is super important. And something also that came up in the priesthood meeting about this was uh someone said, God, the perfect father, lost a third of the host of heaven according to the church doctrine. So, like, he being a perfect parent lost a third of his kids. Like, we shouldn't beat ourselves up if some of our kids choose to go a different direction too, which I think is healthy. Like, just you doing your best and let people choose. Everyone's going to choose differently. So, anyways, hopefully this has been a good video for you to watch, both members or non-members, or never Mormon or ex-Mormon. If you find yourself in church, maybe you can have a moment to think of like, how can I make this a positive, more meaningful experience for the people around me, and more enjoyable, therefore more enjoyable. Like, let's get out of the surface and let's get a little bit deeper. So my intention is to share these videos uh, like twice a month. I might do it a little less, a little more, depending on what's going on, what's interesting. But I hope you enjoy this and it gives you a positive place in your mind to be. Thank you very much. See you on the next one.